Alright, so I've got to show an example of a trading phase in this game, which I'm going to try to do as sort of a comic back and forth. Not really a full-on comic, it's just more of a back and forth between these two characters. And I'm going to show that even though I don't have any provided example text, for example, like this had a full step-by-step example that provided to me so I could make a diagram that showed every little bit of it. But in this case, I don't have an example necessarily, so I'm just kind of interpreting from the provided text what this would look like. And helps to have been in a lot of games where there's trading and back and forth. In this case, it's one of those like open trading type of games where you can like trade pretty much anything, but it has to be immediate, no long-term promises, and but you can trade like any other components. So like there's some basic resources, of course, but that's what's represented by these tiles. But there could also just be whatevs. So for example, what I'm going to do is have this guy who, I don't know, he seems to be a very rugged dude, some sort, possibly some kind of hunter, looking at that fur. And I'm going to say he wants like 3 lions. And he's proposing this trade with Cleo here. And I'm showing this as like a speech bubble, and here's a little trick with speech bubbles that a lot of people don't quite get whenever they're making a speech bubble for a comic. It's not a perfect ellipse. It's sort of a squished ellipse on the left and right. So if you just make a normal ellipse and then you take the left point and then the right point and squeeze them in by a couple increments, whatever increments those may be, then you get something that's closer to what an actual comic book speech bubble really looks like, which is that sort of like flat sides. And the reason you want to do that is because if you put, in this case we're not going to put any text in these speech bubbles, but if you were to put any text in those speech bubbles, you'd have these issues where the outer edges, the ragged edge on the left and the right, may have like one line that is really long compared to the rest of the content, and that's why you want to bring in these sides a little bit so that they can have a nice balanced edge for the left and the right of the text. But in this case, I'm just kind of making these as placeholders for, or rather frames for the proposed trade. So I'm saying that he really wants 3 lions. Alright, so say he wants 3 lions, and usually with any kind of trading thing, it's a colon, so you'll get blah for blah. And let's make that a path so I can just control the size. So now this isn't text anymore. This is just these are just vector elements. I do this sometimes when I just need to put in a put in a bit of text. I just took a bit of text. Basically, what I just did, just kind of catch you up a little bit. I typed a colon. And then use the type create outlines action, which I just use the hotkey Shift Command O, and that turns that text into vector shapes, which I can now manipulate however I like, because they don't have any paragraph styles associated with them or anything. So so like here you can see that these are actually like vector elements now. Anyway, enough of that. Let's see here. So I'm going to bring this speech bubble over to the left so it's clear that is actually making this proposal. And I'm gonna add a stroke, and I'm gonna set the stroke's color to be just a simple black, so it's quite easy to see. And the next thing I gotta do is add the little tail to the speech bubble. I'm just using the pen tool for that. And I am making a... oh, hey Paul! Thanks, I'm glad the stream isn't buffering anymore. Significantly reduced the bitrate. And I was afraid that it would result in kind of a... just a very low-res stream, but thankfully it's not the case. Anyway, so I'm adding this little tail to this speech bubble here. And I'm going to add a slight curve to this tail, and the way I'm going to do that is going back to that pen tool and left-clicking so I can get some of these other sub-pen options here. And I'm going to choose Convert Direction Point tool, which you can also get by using the hotkey Shift-C. And I am using that to select this point, which, as you can see, changes that point on that triangle to actually be a curved handle thing. So like this. And with the same tool, this little I forget what it was called, Convert Direction Point tool, you can grab individual handles on an object and manipulate them separately from the corresponding handles. So I'm going to curve this just a little bit, and curve that just a little bit, and let's move this down a little bit here. Perfect. And I'm going to use the Pathfinder. Oh, before I do that, I want to copy and paste. And what I just did there was I have these two objects selected, this speech bubble and this little tail, and I'm holding Option while dragging, and you can see that the cursor has made this black selection triangle with a little white selection triangle just behind it. That is meant to indicate that it is making a copy of whatever it is I'm dragging. So there's that. The reason I'm making that copy is so that I can manipulate the balloon and the tail individually for the next speech bubble I make. Because what I'm going to do next for this first speech bubble and tail, I'm merging them into one object using the Pathfinder tool, clicking this little button, and hey, that makes it one object. It also brings it up straight to the front, which I didn't want, but whatevs. So there. So that's that, and I'm going to keep this to the side just for a little bit while I continue working on what his offer is. Now, he says that he wants 3 lines, and for the time being, let's say that he actually doesn't know what he wants for them. Like, he's just asking for these things. So let's just say that he's looking for 3 lines. And let's go ahead and make that, instead of a straight up offer. Actually, you know what? No, let's go ahead and make it an offer right away. Why not? This guy's gutsy. He's gonna make a hard deal here. Let's say that he's not gonna offer any resources at all. Let's just say he's gonna offer like 5 coins, because I just happen to have that component available here. Alright, so this is his proposal. He's going to offer 5 coins to whoever can give him 3 lines. Now, I'm not sure which way this should go. Should I say that I'm going to give 5 coins for 3 lines, or should I say I want 3 lines for 5 coins? I'll talk to the developer and see which is more clear for this diagram. This is the kind of thing where, back and forth with your publisher is a good idea. But for the time being, I'm leaving this as is. Now we got to figure out what Cleo's response is to this offer. Now, let's just say that, for example, I am going to move this over here, and this is going to be her response. So let's just say that she's driving a hard bargain. She's going to say, no, this is not good. Let's say that she's going to say, instead, what does she want instead? Let's say she wants... Okay, for sure she'll take the money, but she also wants some other resources that he happens to have. Let's say that he's got... What does she want? Let's say he's got some magicians or musicians. Alright, cool. So let's just say she wants 5 coins, musician, and a priest. Like, she's driving a hard bargain here. And this is why I left the speech bubble as separate objects here when I saved them, so that I can adjust the scale to fit in all these different components. Oh, hey, Paul. Yes, you can access this stream on Twitch for the time being. I think about 2 weeks is the length of time that it'll be up. But Patreon subscribers at a certain level will be able to access this on YouTube as well. I'm going to be saving this on YouTube. So, Paul, you can find it there. Right. So I'm just merging these 2 objects now. Oh, before I do that, again, copying and pasting that speech bubble element, put it together. I'm combining this pathfinder. All right, so now she has counter offered. So he wants 3 lions for 5 coins. She's counter offering. She'll give him 3 lions for 5 coins and a musician and a priest. And let's just say he counter offers. And let's say that... Let's say that he is going to counter offer instead of the priest and the musician, he's going to offer 5 coins, and why not? Let's go crazy, and he'll offer a universal asset, which is pretty cool. Actually, let's do something a little bit more different here to just emphasize that anything's up for grabs. An Emperor's Medal is pretty valuable. So let's say that instead of money, instead of all that, he's just offering this straight up Emperor's Medal. Right? Cool. Now, what's her response here? Let's say that she's cool with it. She actually likes this offer. She's feeling confident about it. She thinks that he's getting suckered, so she's cool. That is not going to require a huge speech bubble here to show approval for this. So we can take this, Pathfinder, merge that, and let's find a check mark. And I've got a number of different fonts on my machine that have different check marks and stuff, but I've used them so often that I actually have them saved in a in my history under glyphs. You can find that under type. So if you go to type glyphs, you'll be able to choose a font here at the bottom and choose whatever font you want. And it shows pretty much all of the letters of a particular... Not sure what was going on there. All right. Glyphs. Not sure why it's only showing the C. That is very odd. Well, whatevs. Anyway, under glyphs, you should be able to see every single letter that is in a particular font when you choose that font. And you can see at the top here the past history of glyphs that I've already selected from past projects, including a check mark and an X. And I'm going to use that here. I'm just going to make a text frame. And I'm going to go to type, back to glyphs. I'm going to double click that check mark. Boom. And in case you're curious, that check mark comes from Zapf Dingbats. And I don't remember what letter it is. Yeah, if I go to some other font. Oh, it doesn't even have a corresponding letter in Arial. Oh well. But yeah, if you just go to glyphs and you pick a font, you'll be able to find every single character that's in that font. So anyway, she likes this. And I'm going to reduce that just a little bit more. Okay, so now we've got this little diagram up over here. I'm going to scoot up just a bit and reduce the size up significantly, I think. And I'm going to reduce the height of these characters a fair bit. All right, so hopefully it's clear that he's offering initially. Oh, cool! Yay! I'm glad the stream's working. So yeah, so now what I'm hoping that we're communicating here is that he's offered 3 lines for. He wants 3 lines for 5 coins. She's counter-offering 5 coins and a musician and a priest. He counter-offers. Instead of money or resources, he's instead just offering a straight-up Emperor's Medal. She approves, and I'm going to take that, make that a vector element, increase the size. And now I'm actually going to show the trade. And hopefully this back and forth, this top to bottom, the sequence of events is clearly communicated. In case that they want to actually add text to this example, I'm leaving that space a little bit open, but for the time being, I'm just kind of... yeah, I'm not sure how happy he is about this trade, but he really needs those lines to build this event that he wants to do. It's so funny that I'm actually getting viewers now. Funny that a sensible bitrate helps. Anyway, I'm not gonna get distracted with chat too much here. Sorry. Now I actually got to show this trade happening. So I am gonna show these figures here. She is gonna be over here. He's gonna be over here. Right, and now I gotta show some arrows that indicate this trade happening. Da, 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 da. You find that once you've set up one diagram for a particular thing, action in the game, you can reuse a lot of them. So I reuse these arrows a lot from other diagrams. So I'm showing that arrow there, and I'm going to show this arrow going the opposite direction. extend that just a little bit. Alright, so now we show the negotiation that they had, a little back and forth, and the final trade. Now, what I'm trying to figure out is whether I want to show a second type of trade happening here. And a lot of that depends on how much space I have. I don't know whether the developer wants to show multiple types of trades, so for the time being, I'm just going to fill up the rest of this space with the art and the diagram, and hopefully that'll be sufficient example, because I don't have any further content to really build anything off of. So I'm going to increase the scale of these two characters just a tad. I'm going to increase the size of this example background a bit, selecting that table diagram, boosting the size of that significantly to just kind of fill in the space a little bit. Oh, and I gotta reset the effects here. When you rescale objects that have any kind of weird effects or anything, sometimes that will break or change the type of effect. So in this case, I have a gradient blur, or no, not gradient blur. I forget what it's called. Let me pull it up really quick once I've got these arrows properly set up. Oops. All right. Gonna set that up just a little bit, rotate that. Okay. All right, now I'm just gonna, to make the chronology of this whole negotiation a little bit clearer, I'm gonna stack these speech bubbles a little bit more directly. So you see it top to bottom. And you'll note that this slight overlap between speech bubbles also helps to indicate the hierarchy, the chronology that in which they occur. So you can see that this is the second speech bubble overlaps the first, and the third overlaps the second, and the fourth overlaps the third, to sort of indicate like a sort of a hasty back and forth interaction between the two of them. But still, they're slightly off-center from each other, so that make it absolutely clear that the speech bubble that's coming from her is coming from her, and vice versa, that his speech bubble is coming from him. Now, we've got a little bit of space here. So I'm just going to nudge that a little bit, nudge that here. And I have a question now, whether I should set up the table diagram to be in the foreground to overlap the characters, whether it's more important to show that these fictional characters are the ones that are negotiating, or whether it's more important to show that the real people at the table are negotiating. And I'm going to just favor the real people, even though they're just sort of abstracted. I'm going to nudge her over just a little bit. Okay. And actually, do I still need to do any kind of effect here? Gradient feather. Yeah, I still want to do a gradient feather a little bit, just to add that little touch. Flip that around. All right. Okay, so 3 lines for 5. Nope, I want 3. I want 5 and a musician and a priest. No, I'll instead give you an Emperor's Medal. Okay, cool. And then they trade. All right, seems clear enough. All right, so that is that page for the time being, anyway. Yes, to indicate that there is an active player for this trading phase, I have highlighted that active player in yellow. That was a question from the chat. And as a matter of fact, maybe I should go ahead and add some annotations to this to make that even clearer. All right, so let's say that's A. During this phase, you have a chance to trade their unwanted asset tokens. The starting player begins by making open offers to the rest of the players. The starting player, let's just say that's A. So A, starting player. Cool. The player can buy, sell, or exchange components with any other players. Only money and event assets may be used to make trades. Oh, okay, so I should have read that more closely. He can't offer. Oops. Sorry. He cannot offer this Emperor's Medal, unfortunately. So he's going to make another counter offer. And I got to delete that from the diagram as well. I'm going to... Just to make this figure a little bit easier to see, I'm going to go ahead and actually make him full-on yellow. Oh, you know what? I need to go back to the other diagram too and fix that, but I'll do that in a little bit. I don't really care for that. Yeah, I'm just going to leave those white. But yeah, active player is going to be bright yellow, highlighted, cool. May only trade money and event assets. So let's say that instead he just kind of lowballs. Still offers the 5, but which he wants to give. So yeah, so let's just say he lowballs it, and all right. So she counter offers 5 for a priest and a musician. He counter offers 5 just for the musician, no priest. She accepts, and there's your trade. So let's just scale that up a little bit so it's a little bit more substantial. And I'm not sure if this diagram is completely clear necessarily. This is where I would defer to the developer or the publisher and get their feedback, see what they think is going to work for this. As I said, there wasn't even any text that was provided as an example for this example. So I'm kind of just doing this off the top of my head here. But I think an example would be good. And I think it's certainly just something to look at as you flip through the book. It makes it kind of fun. So I'm going to take feedback from the developer and the publisher and just see what they think about this whole interaction, and then we can kind of explore it later. All right, so I'm going to end this stream for this page, but I'll be back shortly and continue on for the with another page, and we'll see how much farther we can go. I'll see you in a little bit. I'm giving a little minute here to let the stream end.